Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
What if the real difference between those who win once and those who keep winning for a lifetime isn't talent, luck, or even timing? What if the true secret lies in something far less glamorous, yet far more powerful? And what if mastering this one habit could change not just your results, but the entire course of your life? Steady, daily effort sharpens your mind, strengthens your habits, and compounds your success over time. It's not about explosive bursts of intensity. It's about the ability to repeat the right actions again and again. When you keep going, even when no one is watching, that's where real power is forged. Stay sharp, keep moving forward. That's how champions are built and legacies are born. In just a moment, you'll learn how to master consistency so you can keep going, stay focused, and win not just once, but forever. You don't need more time, you need more rhythm. Many people believe success requires massive chunks of free time. Whole days, long weekends, endless hours. But greatness has never belonged to those who wait for perfect conditions. It belongs to the one who builds rhythm into their life. Daily, deliberate, disciplined rhythm. Because what creates a legacy is not occasional flashes of greatness, but consistent performance. And over time, rhythm is what transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. You don't grow a mighty oak by pouring a gallon of water on it once a month. You water it every single day. Small, steady effort, stacked without fail. So, how do you build this kind of rhythm? You set your hour. You protect your time. You move forward even when you don't feel like it. You refuse to negotiate with excuses. You become a person of action, not just emotion. A person of timing, not delay. Picture this, a man with only 1 hour each day. Before dawn, he lights his lamp at the exact same time every morning. While his neighbors sleep, he works. Word by word, thought by thought, brick by brick. Months pass, and suddenly the world calls him a genius. But you and I know the truth, it wasn't magic. It was consistency. He wasn't born with an extraordinary gift, he was consistent. So ask yourself honestly, do you truly need more time, or do you need to start honoring the time you already have? What could your life become if you claimed the first hour of every day with sacred intensity and unwavering focus? The truth is, the person who keeps going always wins. It's not always the fastest who finishes first. More often, it's the one who simply refuses to stop running. You've seen it before. The talented person who starts with energy and promise, only to vanish when the initial excitement fades. Meanwhile, the quiet worker, steady and focused, is still there, still showing up, and eventually becomes the one who stands victorious. Why does this matter so much? Because most people crumble under monotony. They crave moments of inspiration, yet they reject the discipline of repetition. But greatness lives inside repetition. You don't become unbeatable by being brilliant once in a while. You become unbeatable by being unbreakable day after day. You transform into this person when you decide that your steps matter more than your sprints. You stop chasing rare bursts of magic and start building consistent hours of mastery. You commit to your goal not just when people are watching, but also when no one notices and when progress feels painfully slow. Now, picture two craftsmen. The first waits for motivation to strike before beginning his work. The second wakes up each morning, sharpens his tools, and gets to work without excuse. Days pass, blending into weeks, and progress appears slow. But in time, the second man's name begins to spread. People say he's talented. The truth? He's consistent. Which one are you becoming? Are you still waiting to feel ready, or are you building regardless of your mood? The one who keeps going wins, not only the race, but also the respect of others. And respect, earned slowly over time, is a currency far more valuable than applause. You must sharpen yourself daily, or risk growing dull without even realizing it. Every blade, no matter how finely crafted, loses its edge when left unused. And your mind, your most powerful weapon, is no different. It will not stay sharp out of loyalty to your past efforts. It will not freeze itself in a state of excellence, waiting for you to return. It dulls quietly, subtly, silently, until one day, you reach for your edge and find it's gone. You might believe you're maintaining your level by simply coasting, but life offers no true stillness. It's always in motion. You are either sharpening or you are sliding. There is no pause button in the pursuit of mastery. That's why sharpening yourself every single day is not optional. It's essential. The world will not stop and wait for you to get ready. And success will never reward the man who shows up late to his own readiness. It belongs to the one who stays ready. The one who invests in the invisible work long before the visible battle arrives. It belongs to the person who trains, not for applause, but for advantage. Daily refinement isn't about grand events. It doesn't come with fireworks, fanfare, or public praise. It happens quietly, consistently, often unnoticed. You read a page from a book and wrestle with a new idea. You revise your goals. You take time to reflect. You revisit a skill that once challenged you. You start asking better questions than you did yesterday. It may not look heroic from the outside, but it is, because it's deliberate. And from that deliberation, true strength is born. Think of the old warrior who rises before the sun. He doesn't know if the battle will come today, but he polishes his sword anyway, tests its balance, and sharpens its edge. Why? Because when the call comes, he will not stumble. He will swing with precision, not panic. The same truth applies to your mind, your spirit, and your talent. You cannot afford to wait until life throws its test at you before you start preparing. You must be prepared long before the trial arrives. That is how you rise when others fall. That is how you move forward when others freeze in place. Look around you. How many men are still living off yesterday's strength, clinging to an old reputation, relying on talent they haven't touched or refined in years? They don't realize their edge has dulled. They don't feel the slow slide until it's too late. And then, a moment comes when sharpness is needed, but it's no longer there. But you can choose differently. You can ask yourself, have I sharpened today? Maybe not in some grand way, but in any way at all. Did I stretch my mind? Did I strengthen a habit? Did I confront a weakness? Did I prepare for the challenges ahead? Because every act of sharpening, no matter how small, builds a hidden reserve, a mental armory you can draw upon when the moment truly demands it. And when the storms come, and they will, you won't scramble and panic. You will respond with precision, calm, focused, sharp. That's why you can't wait for the fight to find you. You sharpen now, quietly, daily, relentlessly. Your edge is your responsibility, and no one else will keep it for you. Keep it ready at all times, because in the journey toward greatness, results are often boring long before they become brilliant. The beginning is quiet, almost uncomfortably quiet. You rise early when no one notices. You work late when no one is cheering. You write that single sentence, lift that one weight, speak that one idea, and nothing seems to happen. No applause, no recognition, no clear sign that your efforts are making any difference. And it's in that silence that most people quit. We've been conditioned to believe that effort should be quickly followed by reward, that every action should bring an immediate result. But the truth is, in the early stages, effort is invisible. It hides beneath the surface, building roots long before it shows any fruit. You plant the seed, yet nothing breaks the soil. You post the video, and no one watches. You launch the idea, and it lands without a sound. You give your absolute best, and the world doesn't even blink. But this is the real test. This is the moment where it's decided who will rise and who will retreat. Because results don't shout at first. They whisper. They whisper to test your faith. They ask, can you keep showing up when there's no applause? Can you stay consistent when the scoreboard still says 0? Most can't. They stop digging just a few inches before they strike gold. They abandon the project when it's one breath away from blooming. Why? Because they can't stand the silence. But you must be different. You must learn to hear the silence for what it truly is. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're early. So how do you hold your course when no one's watching? You keep records, not of your wins, but of your work. You measure your consistency. You celebrate the act of showing up, the courage to attempt, the discipline to continue. You anchor your worth in the process, not in the praise. And you commit to the law of compounding, knowing that today's unseen effort becomes tomorrow's undeniable breakthrough. Like the farmer in spring, you don't dig up the seeds in doubt. He doesn't stop watering just because the field still looks empty. He understands what's happening beneath the surface, even if no one else can see it. Roots are spreading deep into the soil. Foundations are being laid in silence. And when the moment finally comes, the green will burst forth. Not because he suddenly did more, but because he refused to quit when there was nothing to show. Can you endure that kind of boredom? The kind that feels like you're spinning your wheels without moving forward? Can you keep pouring water into the ground when nothing rises to thank you for it? If you can, you're already among the rare few. And if you persist, you will become unstoppable. Because every man craves the fruit, yet so few are willing to wait for the roots to grow. So, remain steady. Keep showing up. Plant again. Water again. Let the silence be the proof of your strength. The sprout is coming, and when it does, the world will notice. Build before you feel ready, or you may never begin at all. The world is crowded with men who waited. They waited for clarity, for courage, for the perfect timing that never arrived. They waited for approval, for the bank account to be full enough, for a sign to fall from the sky or rise from within. And now, years later, they are still waiting, trapped in the same cycle, perhaps older and wiser, but no closer to their dream. Readiness is a myth, a sedative disguised as reason. It lulls people into comfort and whispers, "Not yet." But here's the truth. You don't become ready before you leap. You become ready because you leap. Why must you begin now? Because motion breathes life into vision. Action creates momentum, and momentum ignites belief. Confidence is never something handed to you. It's something you earn. Every small step, every imperfect attempt, every time you try and fail. These are the pieces of evidence that stack into strength. And that evidence becomes your power. You don't think your way into courage. You act your way into it. There will never be a day when all the lights turn green. Never a perfect moment when fear disappears completely. Never a time when the inner critic stays silent long enough for you to feel total peace. You must go anyway. You must walk into the wind, not wait for it to calm. Because the man who waits for perfect conditions ends up perfectly nothing. You begin right where you are, using whatever is already in your hands. You write with broken pencils. You train with tools that have long lost their shine. You speak while your voice still trembles. You build even when you doubt the strength of your own hands. Because forward motion, no matter how awkward or unsteady, is far greater than polished hesitation that never leaves the starting line. Picture a man standing before a fragile, weathered wooden bridge. It sways with every gust of wind. The boards creak under the weight of possibility and risk. Behind him, a crowd of cautious souls waits, hoping the storm will pass before they take a step. But storms don't wait, and neither does destiny. So he moves forward. At first, his steps are slow. Not because he is without fear, but because he refuses to let fear decide his fate. Every footstep becomes a silent declaration. I will not live stranded on the shore of hesitation. He makes it across, not because the bridge was sturdy, but because he was willing to cross it anyway. And once he reaches the other side, he doesn't stand there waving from a distance. He builds a stronger bridge for those still waiting, so their path is safer. His courage becomes their compass. His motion becomes their map. So are you that man? Or are you still waiting? Waiting for more money, more skill, more time, more applause? Are you holding back until the voice of doubt falls silent? Until you feel comfortable? Until every guarantee is in your hands before you dare to act? The truth is both harsh and liberating. You become the man you seek by moving now, not someday. You don't outgrow fear, you outrun it. You don't wait for strength to arrive, you build it in motion. And you don't stumble into your calling by accident. You walk into it with intention, step by step, by choice. Because the longer you stand still, the heavier hesitation becomes, until it feels like a weight you can no longer lift. The moment you leap, even if you're unprepared, you destroy the illusion of perfect timing. You learn to swim only after you dive into the water. So, ask yourself right now, are you still waiting for conditions to shift in your favor? Or are you ready to become the kind of man who builds even in the middle of the storm? Destiny has no patience for the man who delays, but it will always reward the one who dares to act. Move before the world forgets that you were even waiting. Discipline is the silent engine that drives destiny forward. You've seen them. Men bursting with ambition, their words bold, their dreams massive, their visions grand enough to stir an entire crowd. But when you look closer, there's something missing, something vital and irreplaceable. They have desire, but no discipline. And without discipline, Even the brightest dream will eventually fade. Without it, your vision turns to vapor, and hope dissolves into haze. You speak about the life you want, yet you never touch it, because you lack the daily fire to bring it into reality. Discipline is not the kind of fire that roars for applause or seeks attention. It builds quietly, steadily, relentlessly. While the world celebrates comfort and chases convenience, the disciplined man is already in motion, already training, already choosing what matters over what merely tempts. There is a reason some men rise while others stall. It isn't luck. It isn't talent. It isn't even raw intelligence. It's the ability to command yourself when no one is watching, to act as your own commander, answering not to your emotions, but to your future. If you want to win, you must discipline your time. Turn your hours into tools. Turn your mornings into momentum that carries you forward. Discipline your words. Speak less, but mean every word you say. Keep your promises, especially the ones you make to yourself when no one else is listening. Discipline your habits, for they are the very architecture of your destiny. Every action you take is a brick, and with each brick you lay, you are either building a palace that will stand for years or a prison that will keep you trapped. How do you build this kind of discipline? You do it through decisions, not just once, but over and over again. Every single morning, when the alarm rings and you rise without complaint, that's a decision. Every time you choose the harder road without needing anyone's applause, that's a decision. When you take action on what must be done, especially in the moments you least feel like doing it, that's where greatness quietly takes root. Discipline isn't a one-time gesture. It's a system, a rhythm, a way of life. It's brushing your teeth even when you're exhausted. It's showing up for your goals when all your motivation has evaporated. It's preparing the soil when the harvest still feels like a distant dream. This is what separates those who merely try from those who truly build. Picture a man who wakes up at 5 every morning, not because he's forced to, but because he's driven by purpose. He's on a mission. No one sees him. No one cheers for him. He moves through his routine in complete silence. But make no mistake, a fortress is rising. One repetition at a time. One disciplined hour after another. His progress is invisible to the world today, but soon, people will look up in surprise and ask, how did he do it? And he will know the answer. He built it in the hours everyone else wasted, because true success doesn't arrive in an instant. It comes in fragments, piece by piece, stacked one over the other. Repetition is the real revolution, and routine is the forge where destiny is shaped. So ask yourself, what are you building in your quiet hours? While others sleep in, are you preparing? While others sink into distractions, are you studying? While others complain, are you creating? Or are you still waiting for motivation to arrive, not realizing that discipline has always been the real engine of progress? You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your discipline. And that is both a warning and a gift. It means your future isn't dictated by fate or by talent. It's determined by what you choose to repeat, day after day. In the end, people won't remember your ideas. They'll remember your impact. An impact is made by those who stay consistent, who keep going, who rise again and again while the world hands out 1,000 excuses. This is your edge. This is your power. In a world drowning in noise, your discipline will make you silent and unstoppable. So now, the question remains, are you letting the world shape you, or are you shaping yourself? Brick by brick, in the steady fire of your own routine, your future is being built right now. The only question is, by whom? Will it be crafted by your own hands, or will you hand over the tools to something else? The man who truly trusts his path will keep walking forward, step after step, even when the road is uncertain. But there's a silent thief on this journey. Not the kind that barges in with noise and chaos, but one that slips in quietly, almost unnoticed. That thief is doubt. It doesn't come with force, it comes with whispers. It slides into your mind before the day even begins, asking small but persistent questions. The kind that make you hesitate when you should be moving. It's the quiet voice that makes you second-guess what you once believed with your whole heart. It doesn't have to stop your body to rob you. It only needs to weaken your belief. And when belief weakens, your fire fades before the day even has a chance to start. You've felt it before, haven't you? Standing on the edge of a great idea, only to let doubt pull you back. You've crafted plans full of potential, yet watched them gather dust because you question your own ability to carry them out. And so the days pass, then months, then years. Not because you lacked ambition, but because you lacked trust in yourself. Here's the truth. Talent means nothing without self-trust. Skills alone won't move you forward if you're chained by hesitation. Doubt will always delay the very thing you were meant to begin. But there is something stronger than doubt, something deeper and far more enduring, and that is trust. Not trust in perfect guarantees, but trust in the path you've chosen. Not trust in the absence of struggle, but trust in the unshakable presence of purpose. True trust isn't blind. It sees every obstacle ahead and still moves forward. It sees the obstacles. It sees the unknowns. And still, it keeps moving forward. Because the man who truly trusts his path will always walk farther than the one who questions every single step. That kind of trust isn't built by simply thinking positively, nor by sitting around waiting for a spark of inspiration. It's built through movement, through action that proves to yourself you mean what you say. You create it each time you follow through on your own word. Every time you do what you promised, especially when it's difficult, especially when no one is watching. You strengthen the message to yourself that you are someone worth believing in. And that self-belief becomes the solid foundation you can stand on. Over time, something shifts deep inside. You no longer merely hope that you are capable. You no longer wish you could be the kind of man who follows through. You know you are, because you've seen yourself do it over and over again. You've turned action into a habit. You've replaced hesitation with forward momentum. You've shown up so consistently that trust has become your natural state, not a rare exception. It doesn't matter if the rewards haven't arrived yet. It doesn't matter if the world hasn't noticed. What matters is that the change is happening within you. And that internal change, the steady strengthening of your own trust, will be the very thing that carries you through the seasons when nothing else can. Picture a lone traveler on a long, grueling climb up a mountain. The path is steep. The air grows thinner with every step. At times, the fog is so thick he can barely see a few feet ahead. And yet, he keeps moving. He doesn't stop every few steps to question whether the summit even exists. He doesn't demand a brand new map just because the terrain is rough. He walks. He pauses to rest. Then he walks again. And with each step, his belief in the peak grows stronger. Not because he sees it with his eyes, but because his feet keep carrying him forward. You must become that man. You must move as though the destination is real, even when it's hidden from view. You must act as though your mission matters, because it does. If you wait to believe until every detail is crystal clear, you will never take the first step. And if you pause to reevaluate your path every time it becomes difficult, you will never reach your destination. Trust is not a luxury you can afford to delay. It's a necessity. Without it, you remain stuck, suspended between who you currently are and the person you have the potential to become. But when you develop trust, when you make yourself worthy of it through steady, consistent action, you unlock a quiet, unshakable power. You stop chasing approval. You stop feeling the need to justify yourself. You simply move forward. And now the question is in front of you. Do you truly trust the road you've chosen? Or do you sabotage your own progress with constant second-guessing? Do you walk like a man on a mission, or like someone still waiting for permission to begin? The man who trusts his journey always walks farther. It's not because his road is smoother or easier. It's because he no longer doubts that every step counts. He trusts the climb, even when it's steep, even when the path is empty and silent, even when the summit is hidden behind the clouds. He walks as if it matters, because it does. When you track your progress, you keep growing. A man without a record soon forgets his effort. He forgets the late nights, the early mornings, the quiet sacrifices no one else witnessed. Without proof, he might convince himself he's not doing enough, or worse, believe he's doing more than he truly is. And here's the truth. Without a record, he's just guessing. And a man who guesses at his progress ends up walking in circles, lost without a compass to guide him forward. Keeping score is not vanity. It is clarity. It doesn't make you obsessed with numbers. It keeps you honest with yourself. A personal ledger is not for public display. It's for you to face in the mirror. You don't track to impress anyone. You track to adjust, to refine, to improve. Because success is rarely about trying harder. It's about refining how you try. And refinement begins with measurement. Every man has known the fog, that frustrating, heavy feeling of working hard, yet going nowhere. It's far too easy to fall into that trap when you have no tangible proof of your progress. But the moment you start recording your efforts, your time, your habits, and your results, you create something priceless, a map. A map that shows where you've been, how far you've come, and exactly where you still need to grow. You start simply. You pick up a notebook, not some fancy app, not a digital tool loaded with distracting features, charts, or endless notifications. Just a plain, empty book. You open it, and you begin to write. Today, 3 hours of focused work. 10 pages read. 1 workout completed. Promise kept. Wake up at 5 a.m. That's it. No judgment. No excuses. No embellishment. You just write the truth exactly as it is. Over time, that truth becomes the bedrock beneath your feet. Because the moment you begin tracking, you strip away every illusion. No more telling yourself you're disciplined when the numbers prove otherwise. No more pretending you're stuck when the pages reveal your steady growth. The gaps will appear, and so will the progress. You gain strength not from chasing perfection, but from practicing precision. You stop working blindly and start working with intention. Picture a mason building a wall. Each day, he lays brick after brick. No one notices the wall yet. It's still too low, too incomplete to impress. But he keeps going. If he never counts the bricks, if he never steps back to measure, the work can feel endless. He might even start to believe he's falling behind. But when he counts, when he sees that wall slowly rising inch by inch, the truth fuels him. Progress might be slow, but it's real. And what is real gives him the reason and the energy to return tomorrow. Your ledger becomes your mirror, and mirrors never lie. When you skip a routine, the blank space on the page confronts you. When you show up day after day, the filled lines testify to your commitment. The more pages you fill, the harder it becomes to walk away, because your own history is staring back at you, line after line, page after page, a living record of your effort. And that history becomes your momentum. It stands as a reminder of everything you've built and of the unfinished work still ahead. Yet far too many men walk away long before their time, not because they truly failed, but because they couldn't see how far they had already come. They never kept score, so their hard work faded into the fog, unrecognized even by themselves. The wall was already halfway built, yet they turned back, convinced that nothing had changed. What if your next breakthrough is just 1 page away? 1 more day, 1 more set, 1 more session of deep, focused work? But you quit, simply because you never measured how close you were to the finish line. This is why keeping a ledger matters. It makes your progress visible, undeniable, and impossible to ignore. And what you can see, you can strengthen. You start noticing your patterns, which days you win, which hours you thrive, which habits push you forward, and which ones pull you back. You shift from being just a worker to becoming a strategist. And it's never about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up to your own life with clarity instead of guesswork. That awareness sharpens your choices, and sharpened choices change your direction. So, ask yourself right now, have you been keeping track, or have you let your work dissolve into forgetfulness? Have you built the habit of documenting your journey, or are you relying on fragile memory, hoping it can carry the weight of your ambition? Because no one rises by accident. You rise brick by brick, decision by decision, line by line. Write it down, measure it, respect it. Let your ledger become your quiet weapon in a loud and distracted world. And when the day comes when you feel lost, open that book. See the work you've done. Remember the climb you've made. And then, keep building. Others may stop. You must not. Most men start strong. In the beginning, the fire burns hot. The motivation feels endless. The vision shines bright. You see them setting goals, drawing up plans, charging forward with unstoppable energy. But life does not honor enthusiasm alone. It will test it. It will send storms to challenge it. And soon, you will see clearly who is genuine and who is truly committed. The ones who are built to last begin to stand out. The early crowd starts to thin, not because they lack desire, but because they lack the will to endure. Hardship doesn't arrive politely. It crashes through the door without warning. It tests your patience, challenges your passion, and pushes against your persistence. It asks you one simple but brutal question. Will you keep going when the excitement is gone? Many won't. They falter, searching for someone else to blame. They stall, waiting for the wind to shift in their favor. They convince themselves they'll begin again when the conditions improve. But delay turns into detour, and detour eventually becomes never. That cannot be you. You must keep moving, because your pace might be the only one carrying your legacy forward. Your footsteps may be the only ones keeping the road open for those who will come after you. You're not running a race against anyone else. You are fulfilling a calling crafted specifically for you. No one else can complete it. No one else will pick it up if you drop it. This path requires more than skill. It demands endurance. You must outlast the noise. You must outwork the distractions. You must outperform the doubt that sneaks in when exhaustion sets in and no one is watching. You must become that man, the one who keeps going when others disappear, not because it's easy, but because you remember exactly why you started. You don't treat your work like a hobby. You treat it like a vow. You don't dabble, you devote. This isn't optional. This is a commitment, the same way a soldier reports for duty, regardless of the weather, regardless of fear. You show up for your mission whether it's rain or shine, storm or calm, because the work isn't just what you do, it's who you are. Picture the runner on a long, winding road. At the start, the crowd is thick, energy is high, adrenaline pumping. Laughter, smiles, and conversation fill the air. But as the miles pass, something changes. The sun climbs higher, breaths grow heavier, legs begin to ache. One by one, they slow, they drift to the side, they stop altogether. Some sit down in exhaustion, some turn back, and suddenly, the road grows quiet. Yet one man keeps running, not because he feels unstoppable, but because he keeps the finish line alive in his mind. Even when it's nowhere in sight, that vision pulls him forward. That vision is what sets him apart from the rest. So, where are you on that road? Have you allowed the fading crowd to dictate your pace? Are you slowing down simply because others have? Have you stopped chasing your mission because they abandoned theirs? This is the exact point where most men fall away. Not because they lack the ability to win, but because they stopped running. They lost their rhythm. They lost their reason. They waited for company on a path that was never meant to be crowded. The ones who truly win are not always the fastest. They are the ones who finish. They are the ones who push through the silence, push through the soreness, and endure the solitude. And here's the truth. The further you go, the lonelier it becomes. But that's exactly where your strength is forged, in the lonely mile, in the final laps, in the quiet victories that no one else ever sees. So let the crowd thin. Let the noise fade. Let others pause if they must. But you keep running. You don't need applause. You don't need company. What you need is conviction. You must remember that your mission matters, even if no one is watching, even if no one is running beside you. Your legacy will not be determined by how loudly you start, but by how long you last. The man who endures becomes the man others remember. The man who refuses to quit becomes the reason others believe it's possible. So ask yourself right now, will you be one of the many who began, or one of the few who finished? Run, even when it's hard, even when you're alone, even when your lungs burn and your legs ache. Run because your purpose is still ahead, and it is waiting for the man who refuses to stop. The man who honors his time commands his life. Time is not something you merely manage, it's something you take command of. And the man who learns to command it doesn't just get more done, he becomes more. Because time is not just minutes on a clock, it is potential in motion, the raw material from which you build your destiny. To waste time is not simply inefficient. It's destructive. It robs you not only of opportunity, but of power. Once time is gone, it never returns. There are no refunds, no second drafts, only consequences. Yet most men live as if time is infinite. They squander their mornings in delay, trade their afternoons for distraction, and surrender their nights to noise. They assume there will always be more time. But life never promises more, it only promises now. And now is slipping away with every passive choice you make. That's why the man who honors time, who treats every single hour like sacred ground, stands apart. He moves with intention. He speaks deliberately. He chooses wisely. Because he understands that what he does with his time is what he becomes. To command your time, you must first decide what truly matters. Not vaguely, not someday, but daily. You identify the few essential actions that truly move your life forward, and you guard them like precious trails leading to your destiny. You don't merely try to work. You carve out hours with the same precision and care a sculptor uses to shape stone. Each block of time is protected. Each task is measured. Every interruption is challenged. Every single minute spent with purpose builds momentum. And that momentum compounds, just like interest on a wise investment. Small, consistent deposits of focused effort grow into something massive over time. But every minute lost to drifting, to passive scrolling, to reacting instead of acting, it subtracts from your potential. It dulls your edge. It scatters your focus. It slowly erodes your ambition. You cannot build a legacy on scraps of leftover time. You build it on priorities, clearly defined and fiercely protected. The path to mastering time begins with discipline. That doesn't mean stuffing your schedule with endless activity. It means deciding in advance what truly matters and doing it, regardless of how you feel in the moment. You establish fixed hours, sacred routines, and clear goals. You wake up not simply to exist, but to build something lasting. You create boundaries around your attention, training both your body and mind to respond to your command, not to the endless demands of the world. Here's the truth. The man who reacts to every interruption lives in constant reactivity. His day is stolen. One message here, one distraction there, one pointless meeting at a time. And by the end, he sits wondering where the hours went. But the man who protects his schedule lives with intention. He ends his day knowing exactly what was built, what was moved forward, and what was won. Picture a builder with a detailed blueprint. He has a plan, a timeline, and a purpose. As people pass by with their opinions and distractions, he stays focused because he knows the structure he's building exists first in his mind before it ever rises in reality. Surrounded by distractions and noise, he doesn't alter his design just to win their approval. Instead, he honors the plan. He keeps his eyes on the clock, not out of anxiety, but out of respect for what it represents. And when the month comes to an end, his structure stands tall. Not because he rushed through the work, but because he ruled his time with intention and discipline. Now ask yourself, have you been letting time lead you? Or are you the one leading your time? Do you wake each morning with clarity, knowing exactly what must be done, or with confusion, drifting from one task to another? Are your days designed with purpose, or are they dictated by whatever happens to appear in front of you? Because time will not slow down for your uncertainty, and it will not pause to wait for you to feel ready. Time moves relentlessly, and it gives respect only to the man who respects it first. You don't have to be perfect, but you must be precise. Start small. Set sacred hours for deep, focused work. Define your non-negotiables each day. Silence distractions during your peak energy zones. Say no more often than you say yes. And watch what happens. You'll begin to feel yourself come alive. Not from working harder, but from working clearer. When you treat your time as a sacred instrument of your future, it transforms into exactly that. Your life begins to take shape. Your confidence rebuilds itself. Your results multiply, not because of luck or chance, but because of leadership, self-leadership. And it all begins with how you command a single day. So take the clock in your hands, not as a burden you must carry, but as a tool you can master. Command it, shape it, honor it, and in return, it will shape you. Mastery belongs to the man who repeats without excuse. It is not magic. It is not a rare blessing handed only to the fortunate few. It is not reserved for the prodigies or the ones born with talent flowing naturally through their veins. No, mastery belongs to the man who returns, day after day, to his craft, not chasing applause, not seeking attention, not even for the promise of reward, but because the work is his. He owns it, and he understands a truth most never learn. Excellence is never born in random bursts of inspiration. It is born in the act of returning, again and again and again. The man who masters his craft is not always the loudest voice in the room. Often, he is the quietest. While others jump from passion to passion, from one shiny distraction to another, he stays. He chooses depth over novelty. He embraces the boredom that others run from. And while the world celebrates talent, he learns to celebrate consistency because he has discovered the real secret. The world will eventually bow to the man who refuses to stop showing up. Mastery is never about doing many things well. It is about doing one thing with depth, over and over, without distraction, without dilution. It's the art of cutting away everything that doesn't matter until only the essential remains, and then performing that essential task with precision, day after day, until it becomes instinct. Until your hand moves before your mind even tells it to. Until your work speaks for you before you ever open your mouth. You don't chase mastery. You build it, brick by brick. Every repetition is one more brick in that structure. The thousands of hammer swings, the countless sentences written, the weights lifted, the scales played. These are the visible parts. But what holds those bricks together is not noise or attention. It's the cement of your silence, your patience in the shadows, your willingness to endure obscurity while you keep showing up. And binding it all together is belief. The unshakable conviction that the process matters, that the basics are enough, that true glory doesn't come from skipping steps, but from walking through each one with care and discipline. Picture a pianist. He wakes before dawn, sits in front of the keys in a cold, dimly lit room, and begins to play. Not a song, not a performance, just a scale, over and over again. Every finger movement is precise. Every note is exact. Friends ask why he isn't composing new music, why he isn't sharing more online, why he isn't chasing bigger opportunities. But he returns to the same scale, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Then, one day, the moment comes, a grand piano, a packed concert hall, silence filling the air. He plays, not with flashy tricks or loud gestures, but with depth, the kind of depth that stills a room, that quiets hearts, that only relentless repetition can create. It's not because he was the most naturally gifted, but because he was the most devoted. Now ask yourself, have you repeated your craft enough to truly earn that moment? Or are you still searching for shortcuts, changing lanes whenever the road gets rough, craving novelty instead of embracing necessity? Excellence has never been about speed. It has always been about endurance. The true master is not the one who burns the brightest for a moment, but the one who burns the longest for a lifetime. It's the one who stayed when others quit, the one who embraced the mundane because he understood it was the only road to the magnificent. To reach mastery, you must stop chasing applause. You must stop waiting for the perfect moment to feel ready. You must stop measuring your worth by how much recognition you receive. True masters don't need the noise of the crowd. Their work speaks for them. Their silence carries a weight all its own. Their hands move with a wisdom that isn't born in a single day, but carved patiently through years of steady, deliberate repetition. Are you willing to return to your scale, to your blank page, to your brushstroke? Are you willing to keep repeating the motion when it feels dull, to keep refining when no one is watching, to press on not because the world is cheering, but because you've decided this is simply who you are? In the end, it's not the most gifted who rise. It's the most grounded, the deeply devoted, the ones who keep doing the work, especially when it no longer feels exciting. They're the ones stacking bricks while others chase castles in the clouds. Mastery is not a finish line to cross. It is a practice, a daily quiet rebellion against distraction. It's a conscious choice to become great by doing the small things exceptionally well. So return to your work. Repeat, refine, rise, slowly, steadily, and with unshakable purpose. Resilience is the mark of a man who has decided deep within himself that he will not be broken. You don't bounce back from life's storms simply because you're naturally strong. You bounce back because, at some point, you made a silent and unwavering decision. I will not break. That choice doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't make the road suddenly smooth, but it makes you immovable. Not because your body can't be shaken, but because your mind refuses to collapse. True resilience is not found in your muscles. It lives in your mindset. It's the invisible spine you carry into every difficult day, the inner steel that bends yet never breaks. Resilience isn't some mystical gift given to a chosen few. It's a skill, a muscle, a way of thinking. And it is forged, not in comfort, but in the trenches of life itself. Resilience isn't forged in the moments when everything is going smoothly. It's born in those seasons when nothing makes sense, when your back is pressed hard against the wall, and the world is handing you every excuse to walk away. That's where it's built. That's where it's tested. And ultimately, that's where it's proven. When life comes at you, and it will, you stand at a fork in the road. You can either collapse, or you can construct. The man who collapses allows circumstances to define him. The man who constructs uses those same circumstances as the very material to strengthen himself. The difference is not fate, and it's not luck. It's a decision. The moment you truly decide that nothing will make you quit, even pain starts to lose its grip. Because pain can only control the man who hasn't made up his mind. Resilience is built the same way strength is built, through resistance. You don't become stronger by avoiding the struggle. You grow stronger by choosing it, by facing discomfort with intention, by stepping into the fire fully aware that it is the only way to forge something solid within yourself. You train your mind to stand tall, even when everything around you shakes. You welcome the challenge. You stay in the ring. You take the hits, yet remain upright. You don't flinch. You don't run. You fight, not with blind rage, but with steady, unshakable resolve. And every single time you endure, every time you refuse to surrender, you earn the right to say, I am the kind of man who continues. Picture two men standing side by side. Both have been brought to their knees by life. The same blow, the same setback. One lowers his head and asks, why me? He gives his pain a crown and allows hardship to define his identity. But the other lifts his eyes and says, watch me. He hurts just as much, but he transforms that pain into fuel, into focus, into forward motion. While the first man fades, the second rises, not because the road is easy, but because he made a choice. The world will try to tell you that resilience is a rare inner fire you're either born with or you're not. That's a lie. Resilience is a choice. And the power of that choice is available to every man, every single day. You don't need a perfect past. You don't need the perfect conditions. What you need is a decision, a final, unwavering commitment that says, I will not be broken. So, what kind of man are you becoming? Have you made the decision, not the wish, not the hope, but the decision, to rise no matter what? Or are you still waiting for the pain to stop before you move again, still hoping life will get easier before you give it your all? Let this be your moment of absolute clarity, the turning point where you decide that quitting is no longer an option, not just when it's convenient, not only when the crowd is watching, but always, especially in the silence, when no one is there to cheer you on, especially when the weight feels too heavy to carry, especially when your heart whispers, enough, and your mind answers, just one more step. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be fearless. What you do need is the resolve to keep moving forward. Decide now. Decide with precision. Decide with finality. And then, rise. You become what you schedule. If you want to change your life, stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for the perfect mood. And stop expecting your dreams to carry you there on their own. Change your schedule. Because your future isn't built by what you hope for. It's built by what you do, over and over again. A man is not defined by his wishes, but by his repetitions. Your routine is your true identity in motion. Many talk about ambition as if it's enough. They speak of big goals, visions, and breakthroughs. But without structure, all of that is just noise. Greatness doesn't arrive by accident. It doesn't knock on your door simply because you had a brilliant idea. It appears only when you've made room for it. Time is the currency of achievement, and your calendar is the blueprint. Every man is given the same 24 hours, no more, no less. What separates the great from the average is not the number of hours, but how those hours are treated. Some waste them as if they were infinite, drifting through days without aim. Others guard them like treasure, assigning purpose to each one. They don't wait for the day to decide who they are, they define the day. If you want to rise, you must do the same. You must become ruthless with your time. Not cold, not mechanical, but intentional. You wake up with a mission. You shape your hours around what truly matters, not around comfort. You build your schedule around your calling. How? By anchoring your day with sacred habits. A time to read, to feed and sharpen your mind. A time to work with zero excuses. A time to reflect, to refine your awareness and strengthen your direction. These anchors don't just build productivity. They forge identity. They tell the world, this is who I am. This is what I do, no matter how I feel. You begin living by principle, not by preference. Because preference says, I'll do it when I feel like it. But principle says, I'll do it because it's who I am. And that, right there, is where true transformation begins. That is the moment when a man stops being driven by fleeting emotion and starts being led by unwavering intention. Picture a blacksmith at his forge. His work is far from romantic. It's hot. It's loud. It's repetitive. Yet every single morning, at the break of dawn, he steps into his workshop. He lights the fire, lifts the hammer, and begins, not because he feels inspired, but because the work demands to be done. His strikes are rhythmic, deliberate, and precise. Never rushed, never random. And over time, his craft produces results that are visible, strong, useful, and lasting. His strength isn't in how he feels about the fire. It's in how he continues to face it, day after day, without fail. Now ask yourself, have you truly designed your day? Or are you letting your day design you? Are your hours shaped with purpose? Or are you just reacting to whatever shouts the loudest? If a stranger were to follow your exact schedule for an entire week, would they start becoming the man you aspire to be? Or would they inherit your distractions, your delays, and your drifting focus? Here's the truth most men avoid. Your schedule is not just a to-do list. It is a declaration. A clear statement of who you are becoming. Every hour tells a story. Every routine is a vote for the future version of yourself. And if those hours are chaotic, if they're filled with noise, avoidance, and aimlessness, then the man they shape will be just as scattered. But when your schedule becomes sacred, when it reflects discipline, clarity, and purpose, transformation begins. Slowly, quietly, and powerfully, your days become tools. Your life begins to take the shape of a masterpiece in progress. Change your schedule, and you change your standard. Change your standard, and you change yourself. That's how it works. Not overnight, not through bursts of dramatic effort, but through quiet, consistent commitment, repeated day after day. This is your moment to stop drifting and start designing. To look at your calendar not as a weight to carry, but as a weapon to wield. A weapon against distraction, against excuses, and against the slow decay of your potential. So go ahead. Define your mornings, guard your hours, and choose your routines with care. Build your day with the same care and attention a craftsman gives to his workbench, because the life you desire is already waiting inside the day you carefully design. You rise higher when you expect more from yourself. Most men wait. They wait for the world to recognize their worth, to reward their effort, to demand greatness from them. They believe that external pressure will push them to become their best. But greatness doesn't work that way. The quiet secret that separates the few from the many is this. You must demand greatness from yourself. Not later, not only when life forces you to, but right now. High expectations aren't a burden. They are a message, a signal to your own soul declaring, I am made for more. That voice might not always shout. Sometimes it whispers softly, but it's always there, telling you that good enough is never enough. Potential without purpose is wasted. Your life will never rise to meet your dreams unless it rises to meet your standards. To raise your life, you must first raise your expectations. You must stop settling for average effort and tolerating lazy decisions. You can't hide behind clever excuses that sound convincing in the moment but leave you empty later. You have to get brutally honest with yourself. Look in the mirror not to criticize, but to confront the truth. This is not my best, and my best is what I owe. You don't owe perfection, but you owe effort, integrity, and full attention to your work. The man who expects more from himself receives more from life, not because the world hands it to him, but because he earns it quietly, day by day, consistently. This begins with the small choices. The early morning you rise instead of sleeping in, the extra rep no one sees, the decision to rewrite the page, rework the plan, and rebuild the structure. Not because it's broken, but because it's not yet your best, and you expect better. That is the difference between those who rise and those who simply repeat. Picture a carpenter building a home alone. He installs a beam, but notices a slight tilt, so subtle that most wouldn't see it. He could cover it up, paint over it, move on without a second thought. But he doesn't. He tears it down and rebuilds it stronger, straighter, better, because he sees the flaw, because he knows the cost of imperfection, because he expects more. That man, the one who holds himself to a higher standard even when no one is watching, is the man who builds a legacy worth remembering. That man is rare. That man is truly dangerous. Not because he seeks praise or fears silence, but because neither applause nor neglect can sway him. His reward is internal, found in the deep satisfaction of knowing he gave his all. He lives not by reaction, but by unwavering principle. He builds something lasting, something beyond the fleeting moments of recognition. So ask yourself honestly, what corners have you been cutting that no one else sees? What moments have you let slide into good enough simply because they didn't demand more? Now consider the deeper question. Do you truly believe those small details matter? Because they absolutely do. This is the real measure of a man, not in what he does when the world is watching, but in the choices he makes when no one would even know the difference. You become extraordinary not through grand public displays of greatness, but through countless private acts of excellence. You rise not because of applause, but because you hold yourself accountable in the silence. That internal, unshakable standard becomes your compass, guiding every decision, every action. Soon enough, life begins to reflect this standard back to you. Opportunities multiply, respect deepens, confidence grows, not because your circumstances changed, but because you did. The man who demands greatness from himself never feels desperate for approval. He already knows who he is. He isn't trying to impress anyone. He's committed to being authentic, to being better, to being true to himself. So decide today, no more lowered bars. No more rationalized laziness or hiding behind the fog of, I'm doing my best, when deep down you know you're not. Raise the bar for yourself, and then rise to meet it. The world might not notice at first, but you will. You'll feel the difference in how you walk, speak, work, and lead. You'll build momentum, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And over time, others will see the results. But you'll know the truth. It was built brick by brick, in silence, through unwavering standards and deep self-respect. You don't wait for greatness. You become it, by choosing it, by expecting it, and by never, ever settling for less. Purpose makes pain profitable. Pain is not always punishment. More often, it is preparation. It is the pressure that precedes breakthrough, the chisel shaping the stone, the fire purifying gold. But there's one critical distinction you must understand. Pain without purpose feels like torment, but pain with purpose becomes transformation. This is the difference between despair and development. When you don't know why you suffer, the ache echoes endlessly, aimless and hollow. But when your pain has meaning, it becomes the foundation of your growth, turning hardship into strength, struggle into story, and setbacks into stepping stones toward your highest self. But when you attach meaning to the pain, when you assign it purpose, you step into a place of power. Suddenly, suffering is no longer a burden. It becomes sacred. You stop asking, why me? And begin declaring, this is molding me. Every great man you admire, whether he stood on a battlefield, a stage, or in the pages of history, has walked through fire. Yet, none of them were merely burned by it. Instead, they used the flames to refine themselves, never allowing the fire to consume them. They transformed heartache into hunger, misfortune into meaning. You must learn to do the same. You need to stop fleeing from pain as though it were an enemy. Instead, learn to face it head-on, study it carefully, and ask it, what are you trying to teach me? Pain is a messenger, delivering sharp lessons wrapped in discomfort. Ignore it, and it will repeat relentlessly. Embrace it, and it will become the force that transforms you. Think of a sculptor standing before a massive, untouched block of stone. With every strike of his hammer and chisel, it appears as if he is destroying it. Pieces fly off, the form looks battered, and the surface fractures. But this is not chaos, it is creation. The pain of the stone is the price paid for the sculpture. Without that pain, without the removal of excess, there would be no form, no beauty, no masterpiece. So the sculptor keeps chipping away, guided by a vision of what could be. And eventually, where once there was only raw material, there now stands a magnificent work of art. That is you. You are not broken, you are becoming. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. Your pain is not random, it is a signal. A signal that you are in the process, that your life is under construction. You are being chiseled into something sharper, something stronger. But this only happens if you cooperate with the process. You must stop seeing every setback as sabotage. You must stop viewing every failure as a final sentence. Instead, learn to see them as sacred shaping, essential steps in crafting the masterpiece of your life. Feel the sting, but stay the course. Endure the breaking, yet keep building. Let your wounds turn into wisdom, and let your struggle give birth to strength. Because here's what most men forget. Pain is not permanent, but the lessons it carries can last a lifetime, if only you don't run from them. The man who avoids pain becomes soft, fragile, easily shattered. But the man who leans into it, learns from it, and lives through it, he becomes durable, deep, unshakable. Your pain is asking you a question. Will you let me forge you, or will you flee from me? Your answer will determine your future. What weight are you carrying right now? What burden presses into your back? What loss still aches in your chest? What regret whispers in your ear in the stillness of night? Don't silence it, study it. That pain you feel may be the very cost of your calling. It might be proof that you're being prepared for something greater. It could be the exact thing that, when harnessed, gives you a voice, a mission, a purpose. Pain will never leave you unchanged. It will either destroy you or develop you. Choose development. Let the pain sharpen your focus. Let it burn away every excuse you've been hiding behind. Let it awaken you to the time you've wasted, the choices you've delayed, and the dreams you've neglected. Let it ignite something inside you. There is sacred energy in suffering if you learn how to convert it. Think of the cold, deep underground, where, under immense pressure and in total darkness, over years, a diamond is formed. That pressure didn't destroy it, it refined it. The cold couldn't understand the process, but the process understood the cold. That's you. Your pain may not make sense right now because you are still in the dark, still under pressure, still becoming. But if you stay with it, if you keep moving, keep believing, and keep surrendering to the purpose behind the pain, you will emerge with clarity, with character, and with a calling carved in stone. So look pain in the eye and say, "You're not stopping me, you're shaping me." And then let it do its work. 1 hour of deep focus is worth more than 10 hours of scattered distraction. Most men are in constant motion, yet getting nowhere. They fill their hours with calls, checklists, conversations, and endless activity. They feel busy, exhausted, even proud of their effort. But at the end of the day, nothing of real substance has moved. The wheels have spun, but the road hasn't been traveled. And this is one of life's greatest illusions. Confusing motion with progress is one of the greatest traps of our time. The modern world celebrates those who react instantly, who move quickly from one thing to the next. But true greatness is never reactive. It is not built in chaos or in constant noise. It is forged in solitude and silence, and, above all, in focus. Not scattered focus, not divided attention, but deep, undistracted, deliberate effort aimed at a clear purpose. And the surprising truth is, this doesn't require a lifetime. It requires just 1 hour. One solid, uninterrupted hour of intentional work each day, pursued with purpose and intensity, has the power to move mountains while the rest of the world chases dust. The man who grasps this principle becomes dangerous, not because of luck or talent, but because he no longer waits for the perfect day, the perfect mood, or the perfect conditions. All he needs is that 1 hour. And when he claims it, protects it, and shows up to it with full intention, he begins to collect results others are still searching for. While the rest scatter their energy across endless distractions, he concentrates his into a sharp, powerful beam that cuts through everything in its way. This is where transformation starts, not in frantic, endless hustle, but in stillness with focus. When you discipline yourself to sit with one task, to resist the constant pull of distractions, to silence the world's demands, and to give everything you have to one single thing, you unlock a different kind of power. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's real. And real work, done consistently over time, compounds into something extraordinary. Picture the writer who rises before the world awakes. The room is dim, the house is silent. He lights a lamp, pours a cup of coffee, and opens his notebook. For the next hour, he writes. No interruptions, no excuses, just word after word, page after page, morning after morning. On any single day, nothing earth-shattering happens. But months later, the book is finished, and the world sees genius. What they do not see is the quiet, guarded hour that made it possible. The hour he protected like treasure. That is what you must create, your own sacred hour. Not because you feel inspired, not because you happen to have free time, but because your dream is worth that level of respect. If your goal is truly worth chasing, then it's worth carving out that focused hour every single day, not just once in a while. Repetition is where the real magic happens. You might be tempted to say you're too busy, but ask yourself honestly, busy doing what? How many hours have been lost to scattered thoughts and half-finished tasks? How many days have quietly slipped through your fingers because your mind was pulled in too many directions at once? The solution isn't finding more time. It's making better use of the time you already have. And that begins with the discipline to claim just one dedicated hour. Close the door. Silence the notifications. Let the world wait for a moment. Because in that hour, you're not just getting work done, you're shaping your future. You're refining your thinking, laying the bricks of your vision, and building a reputation with yourself that says, I follow through. Something profound happens when you make that level of commitment. Your mind starts learning how to drop into deep focus more quickly. Distractions lose their grip. You stop chasing the fleeting feeling of productivity and start producing real, tangible results. You begin to see clearly. You don't actually need more motivation. What you need is intention. And once that hour becomes a daily habit, the results start to speak louder than any excuse. Over time, you don't just change what you accomplish, you change who you are. You become sharper, calmer, and far more capable. You stop wasting precious energy on 100 meaningless directions and start winning in the one area that matters most to your mission. This is how true leaders are built. Not through chaos and noise, but through calm, concentrated effort. Not in unpredictable bursts, but in steady rhythm. One focused hour a day has the power to transform not only your results, but your income, your impact, and the very course of your life. Your health, your influence, your legacy. These can all grow, but only if you guard them as if they truly matter. And they do. In a world obsessed with constant motion, the man who learns the art of stillness, who trains himself to go deep while others skim the surface, becomes unstoppable. The question is no longer, do you have time? The real question is, will you give your hour the respect it deserves? Because if you do, everything else in your life will begin to rise to meet it. Your character is forged in the moments when no one is watching. If you want to be trusted, respected, and followed, you must forget about the performance, the applause, and the carefully curated image you present to the world. Real respect, the kind that is unshakable and lasts over time, doesn't come from public display. It comes from the man you are in private when no one else is around. Not the version polished for public approval, not the one edited to fit social expectations, but the one who makes decisions in silence. The choices you make in secret, unseen, uncelebrated, unfiltered, form the bedrock of your character. Character isn't built under the bright lights of attention. It's forged in the quiet shadows. It's born in those lonely moments when there is no audience, no clapping hands, no punishment, and no reward. Only the choice before you. Will you choose what's right or what's easy? Will you be honest or comfortable? Will you finish or walk away? Rise or roll over? These moments shape you more than any public success ever could. When you put in effort that no one will ever applaud, correct mistakes no one else will notice, or speak the truth when lying would be easier, you are building something far more valuable than an image. You are building character. And character is the only true currency of trust. Reputation is what others see. Character is who you really are. The man with true character never has to ask for trust. People simply feel it in his presence. And this kind of character isn't formed by grand, dramatic gestures. It's built through small, consistent, quiet habits. It's in putting things back where they belong. It's in keeping your word, even when it costs you. It's in choosing to show up, even when quitting would go unnoticed. It's in doing the work right, not just when someone is watching, but especially when they are not. These acts may seem insignificant, but they are everything. They send a powerful message to your own soul. I can be counted on. And when your soul believes you, the rest of the world eventually will too. Picture a man alone in a dusty workshop. No one will ever see this particular piece of work he's crafting. Then he spots a flaw, so small, so subtle, no one else would notice. He pauses. He could easily ignore it. No one would blame him. But instead, he rolls up his sleeves and fixes it. Not because anyone told him to, but because something deep inside demands it. That is the man who becomes a leader, not through words or declarations, but by proving it quietly in moments unseen. That is where real strength begins. That is where leadership is truly born, not from a title, not from a crowd of followers, but from a long and unbroken line of silent victories over laziness, dishonesty, and mediocrity. So, ask yourself, when the room is empty, when the applause fades, when the test comes quietly and without warning, who are you? Are you the man who cuts corners the moment he can, who speaks half-truths to avoid discomfort, who wears a mask when pressure appears? Or are you the man who stands tall, even when it hurts, who acts with unwavering integrity even when no one is watching? That answer will define the course of your life. Because no matter how skilled you are at pretending, the truth always has a way of surfacing. Life will eventually press you. Crisis will come. And in those moments, you won't have the luxury of faking it. You will rise only as high as your habits allow. You will lead only as far as your integrity can carry you. You will be trusted only as much as your private choices deserve. There are no shortcuts to this kind of trust. You cannot talk your way into it. You must live your way into it. It begins with the small, quiet decisions. It starts by catching yourself in the moments when no one is looking and asking, what kind of man do I want to become? And then acting like that man, consistently, even if no one notices right away. Because eventually, someone will. And more importantly, you will. One day, you will look in the mirror and see a man you respect, a man you trust, a man you don't have to pretend to be, because you've earned him. And that is the true beginning of everything. It lives in the mundane, not in the miraculous. It's easy to admire greatness when it's on display, when the speech flows effortlessly, when the product gleams, when the victory is obvious. The world celebrates the finished masterpiece. It cheers for the man on stage, for the shining result in front of them. But what the world doesn't see are the early mornings when the body is tired, yet the work still gets done. It doesn't see the 1,000 dull repetitions, the quiet sacrifices, the unseen battles fought and won long before the spotlight ever finds him. That is where true success lives, in the hidden hours, in the repetition that no one celebrates. The man who wins over the long run isn't swayed by novelty. He doesn't need a new challenge every week to stay engaged. He doesn't chase fleeting bursts of inspiration like a child chasing butterflies. He is not addicted to change. He is devoted to consistency. And through that devotion, he becomes excellent. Not because he moves fast, but because he moves steadily. Day after day, he sharpens the same tools, walks the same path, and repeats the same actions until mastery is no longer a possibility. It is a certainty. There is a quiet, unshakable power in the man who remains loyal to his process. While others chase constant stimulation, he finds deep satisfaction in simply doing what needs to be done. He eats the same meals that nourish and fuel his body. He follows the same schedule that keeps his mind clear and focused. He resists the temptation to wander off course simply for the sake of entertainment or novelty. Why? Because he understands something most people will never truly grasp. Repetition is not boredom. Repetition is discipline in motion. Success does not belong to the man who works hard only when the mood strikes. It belongs to the man who shows up even when he doesn't feel like it. The one who paints the wall even when no one is there to watch. The one who lifts the weight when the gym is silent and empty. The one who writes the page even when the words feel slow and stiff. Greatness is not built through short bursts of intensity. It is forged through unwavering devotion over time. You build this kind of devotion by honoring your process. You stop viewing your daily actions as mindless chores, and you start treating them as sacred rituals. Deliberate steps that bring you closer to the future you desire. You stop trying to skip steps. You stop treating the smallest tasks as if they're beneath you. Because the truth is, there are no small tasks, only small attitudes toward the task at hand. Imagine a man sweeping the floor of his workshop. To others, it may look like nothing more than cleaning, a simple, repetitive routine. But to him, it is something entirely different. He sees preparation. He sees discipline. He sees order taking shape before his eyes. That spotless floor is not just a space. It is a statement. It silently declares, I care. I'm ready. I take pride in everything I touch. That floor is a reflection of his mindset. Now ask yourself, have you grown bored with your own basics? Have you started rushing through the small things, eager to get to what you think is the important part? What if the very repetition you've been avoiding is the exact thing that could carry you to the level you've been chasing all along? What if the very habits you're tempted to skip are the bridge between the life you have now and the life you've always dreamed of living? Every master you've ever admired was once a beginner who stumbled, who fumbled with the basics, who made mistakes with tools that didn't yet feel familiar in his hands. But he stayed. He didn't abandon the process simply because it didn't thrill him every day. He understood that thrill is fleeting, but skill, when patiently cultivated, compounds over time. And with every practice session, every repetition of what others found tedious or avoided altogether, he was building something deep inside himself. Something real, something that could never be faked. Here's the truth. Success is not a lightning strike that appears in a single, dramatic moment. It's a fire built slowly, with care and patience, using the same deliberate movements day after day. The spark might arrive in an instant, but the flame only survives if you keep feeding it. So the real question is, are you feeding your fire, or are you letting boredom slowly starve it to death? Excellence doesn't come from a single burst of intensity. It comes from endurance. It comes from staying committed when the work feels dull, from believing in your process enough to keep going even when there's no applause, no rush, no burst of fresh excitement. Only the quiet, powerful rhythm of repetition. So respect your basics. Sweep your floor. Do your work with pride, no matter how simple or small it seems. Understand this. The man who becomes great is the man who honors what others overlook. Because in the end, it's not the glamorous moments that define your life. It's the discipline to keep showing up, especially when nothing about it feels glamorous. Commitment truly begins where excitement ends. Everyone feels motivated in the beginning. The idea is fresh, the vision is crystal clear, and the energy flows effortlessly like a rushing river. In those moments, action feels easy. The world seems to nod along with your ambition. But that sweet season never lasts. Inevitably, the excitement fades, and when it does, only one thing determines whether you keep building or begin breaking: commitment. Motivation is the spark, but commitment? That's the firewood, the fuel that keeps the flame alive long after the thrill is gone. 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 36 seconds. It's what keeps the flame alive long after the thrill is gone. Motivation will tell you to start. Commitment tells you to continue, especially when it's no longer easy, no longer exciting, and no longer new. And that is where the line is drawn between those who dream of building and those who actually. You don't succeed because you felt great every day. That's a myth sold by highlight reels. You succeed because you kept going, even when you didn't feel like it. Because you woke up tired, distracted, maybe even uninspired, and still moved forward. That's what real commitment looks like. It's doing the thing regardless of how you feel in the moment. You reinforce that kind of commitment by treating it like a vow, not a casual promise, not a maybe tomorrow intention, but a sacred decision that is not up for negotiation each morning. You don't wake up and ask yourself, do I feel like doing this today? You act because the decision has already been made. You move because you vowed to move. There's no waiting for the right time, no negotiating with yourself, no searching for the perfect mood. Picture a man who begins every morning with a cold plunge. No one forces him. No one applauds him. Yet every single day, without fail, he lowers himself into freezing water. He doesn't do it for pleasure. He does it for proof, a declaration to himself. I command my life, not my comfort, not my fleeting feelings, but me. The water is always cold. The body never truly wants it, and still, he steps in. Why? Because he decided long ago that feelings are not the compass. Commitment is. That is the mindset you must adopt if you are serious about building something that truly matters. Life will test you. There will be weeks when your body aches and your energy feels drained. There will be seasons when nothing seems to work. There will be days when you feel invisible, unmotivated, discouraged, or lost. And in those moments, if you rely solely on motivation, you will falter. You will make excuses. You will delay. You will drift. But if your life is anchored in commitment, you won't need to feel strong in order to act strong. You'll simply act. Because commitment is not a feeling, it's a standard. It's a line you draw in the sand that you refuse to cross. You honor it simply because you said you would. And each time you follow through, you gain power. Not the flashy, loud kind that demands attention, but the quiet kind that whispers, I trust myself. And that trust, it changes everything. Because when you start keeping your word to yourself, your entire life begins to shift. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you become more steady, more dependable. You stop wondering if you'll follow through, because deep down you already know the answer. The people who succeed in the long run aren't always the ones who move the fastest, but they are the ones who refuse to stop. They understand storms will roll in, boredom will settle like dust, and the thrill of novelty will eventually fade. Yet they don't flinch, they don't fold, and they never hand their standards over to the whims of their emotions. So ask yourself, are you living on motivation, or are you living on commitment? What do you rely on when the fire cools down? What carries you forward when nothing feels exciting, when the path is steep, and when progress seems painfully slow? That is the real test. When the applause is gone, when the results are delayed, when the shadows of doubt start creeping in, what's left? The answer to that question is what separates those who merely wish from those who truly win. Choose to be the person who makes the decision once, and then honors that decision every single day. Choose to treat your commitment like sacred ground. Don't trample it with hesitation. Don't interrogate it every morning, and don't let it depend on your mood. Just act. Just move. Just keep showing up. Because here's the truth. When motivation fades, commitment must rise. And if you have built your life on that foundation, on routine, on personal vows, on unshakable resolve, then no feeling, no failure, no fear will be enough to stop you. You don't need to feel ready. You only need to remember your vow. You don't need permission to begin. You only need the courage to take the first step. Yet many men waste their best years waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the perfect feeling, waiting for someone else to speak the magic words. Now is your time. They wait for approval, for encouragement, for signs from the world that it's safe to begin. But in that waiting, years slip away. Opportunities fade. And worst of all, confidence withers. Because nothing grows in hesitation, and nothing changes until you make the decision. I'm starting now. There's a dangerous myth that says you must be fully ready before you act. But the truth is, readiness comes after the action, not before. You do not need permission, applause, or a guarantee that everything will work out. Those are illusions. The men who go on to build meaningful lives don't stand around waiting for the world to open a door for them. They craft their own. They understand a simple truth. Action creates clarity. The first step doesn't require a detailed map. It only demands courage. And this kind of courage isn't loud or reckless. It doesn't come wrapped in grand gestures or flashy announcements. It doesn't always shout for the world to hear. More often, it whispers quietly. I may not know the entire path, but I'm taking the next step. It's calm, steady, and deeply rooted. It's the kind of courage that wakes you at 5 a.m. to work when no one else is awake. The kind that says no to distractions and yes to responsibility, not for praise, but for purpose. This courage is forged in private, long before the world takes notice. Before there's a crowd, before there's any applause, you step forward by declaring your mission to yourself first. You write it down. You strip away excuses. You get honest and say, this is what I will do. Then you move, not asking for approval, not waiting for the perfect timing, not needing others to understand, because you understand, and that is enough. Quiet commitment carries its own power. It builds momentum beneath the surface. It doesn't chase validation, it earns it. And when the results of that hidden labor finally rise into view, the world stares in awe, forgetting it all began in the unseen silence. Picture a man alone in his barn. The air smells of sawdust. Each strike of his hammer drives another nail into the wood. There are no investors watching, no customers lining up, no media to praise his work, only sweat, dust, and determination. Still, he keeps building, day after day, while others laugh or wait for the perfect market conditions. He doesn't quit, not because someone ordered him to, but because he made a decision and intends to honor it. One day, that barn becomes a business. That business grows into a name, and that name transforms into a legacy. This is how real things are built, not in noise, but in stillness, not in crowds, but in solitude, in secret, not with applause, but with action, not with external permission, but with an internal decision. And here's the hard truth. If you are waiting for someone else to give you the green light, you've already surrendered your power. No one else can hand you your mission. No one else can unlock your future. That is your responsibility alone. It begins the very moment you stop waiting and start walking. Ask yourself, what dream have you placed on hold simply because you didn't feel ready? What project remains untouched because you're afraid it might fail? What idea have you abandoned because the world didn't instantly cheer for it? Now, flip the question. What could you become if you gave yourself the green light? If you stopped stalling? If you stopped rehearsing and simply began, not perfectly, not completely, but began. One step, one decision, one small act of courage at a time. Your life is not waiting on the world, it is waiting on you. This isn't about recklessness. It's about responsibility. The responsibility to move forward even when the outcome is uncertain. To keep building even when no one is watching. To hold faith in your calling even when the crowd is silent. That's leadership. That's manhood. That's ownership. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't need 1,000 followers or a polished degree hanging on the wall. You need conviction, and you need it now. So stop hiding behind endless preparation. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions, because they will never be perfect. But the moment you take action, you start shaping those very conditions yourself. You don't wait for momentum, you create it. Write the first page. Make the first call. Lift the first weight. Build the first piece. Risk the first rejection. These are not small things. They are everything. They are the proof that you've stopped waiting and started becoming. And even if the results don't show up immediately, that's perfectly fine. It's not about speed. It's about sending a signal to yourself and to the world that you've begun. Every action you take sends a message to your mind, to your soul, saying, I am in motion. I am no longer stuck. And that message compounds over time. It builds strength, sharpens focus, and deepens belief. So if you've been waiting for a sign, here it is. You are the sign. Your courage is the signal. Your commitment is the green light. You don't need permission. You need to move, quietly yet decisively, faithfully holding to your path. One day, after the countless long hours, after the lonely repetitions, after those silent, unseen beginnings, people will ask, how did you do it? And you will know the truth. You stopped waiting, and you started building. The journey does not reward those who sprint at the start. It rewards those who refuse to stop, no matter how long the road feels. So keep showing up. Keep sharpening your edge. Keep moving forward, even when the path is silent, even when no one is watching. Because consistency isn't just a habit, it is a weapon. Use it every single day, and you won't just win once. You'll build victories that last a lifetime. Wishing you strength, health, and happiness. And remember to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.